In the vast, dark expanse of the Warhammer 40K universe, few threats are as terrifying and relentless as the Tyranids. These Xenos creatures, driven by an insatiable hunger, have swept across the galaxy, consuming everything in their path. At the heart of this monstrous swarm is a figure whose mere presence instills dread in the hearts of even the most battle-hardened warriors: the Swarmlord. Known for his lethal cunning and terrifying power, he embodies the very essence of the Tyranid menace, unstoppable, adaptive, and intelligent beyond measure. But what makes the Swarmlord truly formidable? The Swarmlord is not merely a creature of brute force. He is a master tactician, a being whose intelligence surpasses that of the typical Tyranid leader. His strategic prowess and unmatched ability to lead the swarm have earned him the title of the deadliest of all Tyranids. However, his rise to power and his place within the Tyranid hierarchy are shrouded in mystery. While his exact origins remain unclear, his impact on the galaxy cannot be overstated. The story of the Swarmlord is not just about the Tyranids, but about a being who stands at the apex of an entire species' evolution, a being whose existence represents both the pinnacle of Tyranid potential and the terrifying future of the galaxy itself. To understand the true nature of the Swarmlord, one must first grasp the intricacies of the Tyranid hive mind and the vast network of creatures that serve it. But more than that, one must appreciate the fear and awe he commands from both his enemies and his own kin. The Swarmlord is a figure of legend, not just for his unyielding power on the battlefield, but for the mystery surrounding his very existence. What is his true purpose? How did he come to command the swarm with such authority? These questions will guide us through the tale of the Swarmlord, a being who is as deadly as he is enigmatic. The Swarmlord's story is not just one of alien conquest, but a glimpse into the dark future of the galaxy. His rise to prominence is intertwined with the Tyranid invasion itself, and his name will forever be associated with the swarm's most devastating campaigns. The events that led to his emergence are as complex as the Tyranid race itself, and understanding his role in the grand scheme of the galaxy is key to understanding the scope of the Tyranid threat. As we explore the tale of the Swarmlord, we will uncover not only the details of his rise to power, but also the larger implications of his existence. What does his presence mean for the galaxy? What are the true depths of the Tyranid menace, and how does the Swarmlord fit into this greater picture? These are the questions that will unfold in the chapters to come, revealing a story that is as much about the Tyranids as it is about the future of the galaxy itself. In this video, we will dive deep into the life of the Swarmlord, examining the key players, the events that led to his rise, and the consequences of his actions. But first, we must understand the broader context, the galaxy in which he operates, the enemies he faces, and the forces that shape the future of the Imperium and beyond. It is a galaxy teetering on the brink of destruction, and the Swarmlord's role in that destruction will be a focal point of our journey. The stage is set, and the questions have been raised. The Swarmlord is coming, and the galaxy will never be the same. But what is his true power, and what does he ultimately seek? The answers lie ahead, and they are far more complex than anyone could have imagined. The Tyranids are a terrifying and singularly focused Xenos race, the ultimate predators of the galaxy. They are a vast swarm of bioengineered creatures, all bound by the will of the hive mind. This collective consciousness coordinates and drives the Tyranid forces, guiding each creature towards a singular goal: consumption. The Tyranids' purpose is simple yet terrifying: to devour all biomass in the galaxy and add it to their ever-growing fleet. This relentless hunger fuels their ceaseless wars against the inhabitants of countless worlds, and they will stop at nothing to absorb all organic life. At the heart of the Tyranid swarm is the hive mind, a shared intelligence that governs the collective actions of all Tyranid creatures. The hive mind is not a single entity, but a vast, networked consciousness that spans the Tyranid fleet. Every Tyranid, from the smallest gaunt to the most powerful bio-titan, is part of this unified mind. The hive mind's purpose is to guide the swarm, ensuring the survival and expansion of the Tyranid race. It is an intelligence that is driven by the instinctual need to feed, adapt, and evolve, making it both an immensely powerful and incredibly dangerous force. Within the vast network of Tyranid organisms, the Swarmlord stands as one of the most significant and deadly figures. A leader of unparalleled ability, the Swarmlord commands the swarms with a strategic brilliance that surpasses even the other high-ranking creatures in the Tyranid hierarchy. His intelligence and battle prowess have earned him a position at the top of the Tyranid food chain, making him a true apex predator within the swarm. While the Swarmlord is not the only leader within the Tyranid forces, he is certainly one of the most terrifying and influential. The Tyranid hive fleet is the overarching structure through which the swarm operates, an ever-expanding fleet of bioships that travel through the void, devouring planets and adding their resources to the Tyranid cause. The fleet is divided into various tendrils, each one led by powerful leaders like the Swarmlord. These tendrils are sent to specific targets, and the hive mind uses them to bring destruction to those who are unfortunate enough to be in their path. The Tyranid fleets operate in perfect coordination, using both the might of their warriors and the strategic leadership of creatures like the Swarmlord to achieve their goals. Other key figures within the Tyranid hierarchy include the Tyranid warriors, who are the backbone of the swarm's military force. These creatures are highly adaptable, designed to handle various battlefield situations from close combat to ranged engagements. Though they are not as powerful as the Swarmlord, their role as leaders of lesser Tyranid creatures is crucial in ensuring the swarm's efficiency. Tyranid warriors guide the lesser organisms in battle, ensuring that the swarm operates as a cohesive unit. There are also the monstrous creatures that serve as the heavy hitters of the Tyranid forces. These include the Carnifex, a massive bioengineered behemoth, and the Hierophant bio-titan, which is capable of laying waste to entire cities. These creatures serve as the ultimate weapons in the Tyranid arsenal, capable of wreaking havoc on any who stand in their way. While the Swarmlord commands the swarm with unmatched intelligence, these monstrous creatures carry out his orders with terrifying force. In addition to the physical creatures of the Tyranid swarm, there are also the more specialized bioforms, such as the zoanthropes, which wield powerful psychic abilities. These psychic creatures serve as conduits for the hive mind's will, and their powers are often used to devastating effect on the battlefield. The zoanthropes can warp the very fabric of reality to crush their enemies or manipulate their minds, making them a potent tool in the Tyranid arsenal. The Tyranids' role in the Warhammer 40k universe is one of unrelenting aggression and consumption. They are a race of creatures whose existence revolves around the acquisition of biomass, and their every action is designed to further this goal. From the moment they arrive in a system, they begin their methodical destruction of everything in their path, consuming planets and life forms until nothing is left but empty husks. This singular focus makes them one of the most dangerous threats to the galaxy's many civilizations, as their unstoppable nature and vast numbers make them nearly impossible to defeat. In the broader context of the Warhammer 40k universe, the Tyranids represent an existential threat to all life. Unlike other Xenos races, such as the Orcs or the Eldar, the Tyranids do not seek to conquer or dominate, they seek only to consume. Their arrival marks the beginning of a process of total annihilation, and they leave nothing behind but a trail of destruction. The Swarmlord, as one of the most prominent leaders of the Tyranid forces, is a symbol of this terrifying objective. He is the embodiment of the Tyranids' evolutionary potential, an unstoppable force driven by hunger and intelligence. Through him, the Tyranids' ever-expanding swarm becomes a near unbeatable threat, and the galaxy quakes in fear at the thought of his full return. The Imperium of Man, the Eldar, and other major factions across the galaxy all face the Tyranid threat with equal parts fear and determination. The Tyranids do not care for alliances, and they do not negotiate. They are an existential force of nature, and the only goal they pursue is the consumption of all that exists. The Swarmlord is the harbinger of this fate, leading the swarm with an unrelenting drive to devour all that stands in his way. As the Swarmlord commands the swarm and moves closer to fulfilling the Tyranid race's ultimate purpose, the entire galaxy watches in trepidation. The Tyranids may not speak, they may not understand the concept of diplomacy, but their presence speaks volumes. The Tyranid swarm's purpose is clear: to consume, to evolve, and to reshape the galaxy into a feeding ground for the hive mind. The Swarmlord is simply the most powerful embodiment of this insatiable drive, and his actions will shape the future of the galaxy in ways no one can predict. The emergence of the Swarmlord is a pivotal moment in the history of the Tyranid race, and his rise is intricately tied to the ongoing evolution of the Tyranid swarm itself. While the exact details of his origin remain shrouded in mystery, it is clear that the Swarmlord represents a significant leap forward in the Tyranids' evolutionary trajectory. The circumstances that led to his rise can be traced back to the very nature of the Tyranids, a race whose ultimate survival is defined by adaptation, consumption, and the unyielding drive to evolve. The Swarmlord's appearance is not simply a random event, but a culmination of the Tyranids' relentless quest to become the most efficient and devastating predators the galaxy has ever known. Prior to the emergence of the Swarmlord, the Tyranid swarm was already a formidable force, but it was still in a state of ongoing development. The Tyranids are known to travel the galaxy in great hive fleets, each one a massive biological construct capable of annihilating entire star systems. These fleets are not static, but are constantly evolving, adapting to the challenges posed by different environments, enemies, and combat scenarios. This evolution is driven by the hive mind, an intelligence that continuously refines and reshapes the Tyranid forces to meet the needs of the swarm. It is within this framework of relentless adaptation that the Swarmlord first emerged. The Swarmlord, it is believed, was created as an answer to the growing need for a more intelligent and capable leader within the Tyranid hierarchy. While the Tyranids had always relied on powerful creatures such as the hive tyrants and other bioforms to lead their swarms, the complexity of the galaxy's defenders required a higher level of coordination and strategy. The Tyranid hive mind, ever in pursuit of perfection, realized that it needed a creature capable of guiding the swarm with greater tactical acumen. In response, it created the Swarmlord, a being whose intelligence and strategic brilliance were matched only by his sheer physical power. The circumstances leading to the Swarmlord's creation also involved the growing realization that the Tyranids needed a leader who could withstand and adapt to the increasing variety of threats they faced. As the Tyranids continued to encounter new civilizations and armies across the galaxy, they were forced to confront increasingly sophisticated and resilient enemies. The rise of the Imperium of Man, the stability of the Eldar, and the presence of other powerful Xenos factions all contributed to the need for a being capable of facing these challenges head-on. The Swarmlord was not simply a tool of destruction, but a creature designed to outthink, outmaneuver, and overcome the most formidable opponents. The development of the Swarmlord also coincided with a shift in the Tyranid hive mind's approach to warfare. As the swarm continued to grow, so too did its need for more complex strategies. The battle tactics that had worked in previous campaigns, while effective, began to show their limitations against the more well-established factions of the galaxy. The Swarmlord was the answer to this problem, a creature who could evolve alongside the swarm, bringing with him an unparalleled understanding of both the Tyranid strengths and their enemies' weaknesses. One of the key factors that led to the Swarmlord's creation was the necessity of combining the strengths of both the Tyranids' biological might and their strategic potential. The Tyranids, while overwhelming in number and ferocity, lacked the kind of leadership that could bring them together in a unified strategy. While the hive mind could coordinate the swarm's movements, It could not always provide the kind of creative thinking and tactical brilliance needed to deal with the galaxy's most difficult challenges. The Swarmlord, with his unique combination of intellect and combat prowess, was the answer. He brought a new layer of complexity to the Tyranid leadership, allowing for more sophisticated tactics and the ability to overcome even the most stubborn resistance. The creation of the Swarmlord also marks a key point in the Tyranids' evolution towards becoming the ultimate predators. As the swarm continued to consume and adapt, the need for leaders who could guide the swarm through more complex and dangerous environments grew. The Swarmlord, with his immense power and tactical brilliance, embodied the next stage in the Tyranids' evolutionary process. He was not just another creature in the swarm. He was a representation of the Tyranids' unyielding drive to improve, to overcome, and to dominate. His role was not simply to command. He was the apex of a biological and intellectual arms race, a leader born from the need to evolve in response to the growing threats in the galaxy. The Tyranids' relentless drive for perfection meant that they constantly sought to refine and improve their creatures, and the Swarmlord was a direct result of this process. The creation of the Swarmlord was not an isolated event, but a reflection of the broader strategy of the Tyranid race, to continuously adapt and evolve in the face of increasingly difficult challenges. His powers were specifically designed to counter the evolving tactics and weapons of the galaxy's defenders, and his emergence signified a turning point in the Tyranids' long and ongoing campaign of galactic conquest. The Swarmlord's powers are both a product of his biological design and a manifestation of the hive mind's deepest understanding of warfare. As a creature of the Tyranid race, the Swarmlord possesses all the attributes that make the Tyranids such a terrifying force: immense strength, resilience, and adaptability. However, he also possesses a level of intelligence that allows him to outthink his enemies, a trait that sets him apart from even the most powerful of Tyranid leaders. His physical form is a testament to the Tyranids' mastery of bioengineering, a being whose body has been sculpted for both combat and leadership. With his towering presence and terrifying combat abilities, the Swarmlord commands the swarm with an unmatched authority, and his influence can be felt across every battle in which he participates. The creation of the Swarmlord also reflects the broader strategy of the Tyranids in their quest to dominate the galaxy. The hive mind's ability to evolve its creatures, including the Swarmlord, shows a level of sophistication and foresight that few other races can match. The Swarmlord's rise was not a mere accident. It was a calculated move by the Tyranid hive mind to ensure the swarm's continued dominance in the galaxy. His power and leadership were needed to guide the swarm through the increasingly complex and dangerous environments of the galaxy, and his role in the Tyranid race's evolution cannot be overstated. The Swarmlord is not only the product of the Tyranids' biology, but also the embodiment of their unrelenting drive to become the ultimate predators in the universe. The story of the Swarmlord unfolds across several key stages, each one marking a significant chapter in the development of his power and influence within the Tyranid swarm. From his creation to his battles across the galaxy, the Swarmlord has played a central role in the Tyranid invasion, and his actions have reverberated throughout the universe. The first notable phase of the Swarmlord's existence occurred shortly after his creation by the Tyranid hive mind. As a newly evolved leader, he was sent to lead a series of advanced Tyranid hive fleets, particularly those tasked with tackling the most difficult targets. It was during these early campaigns that the Swarmlord's tactical brilliance became apparent. His ability to rapidly adapt to different environments and counter the strategies of his enemies set him apart from other Tyranid leaders. He was a figure of unmatched efficiency, capable of organizing the Tyranid forces in ways that no previous leaders had been able to do. His tactical ingenuity allowed him to gain victories even in the most difficult of circumstances, and it didn't take long before he became recognized as one of the most dangerous beings in the Tyranid race. One of the first major battles the Swarmlord participated in was during the invasion of a heavily fortified Imperial world. Here, the Swarmlord's approach was distinctly different from that of his predecessors. He did not simply rely on brute force. Instead, he employed a series of feints, traps, and ambushes, exploiting weaknesses in the defenders' strategies. The Imperial forces, accustomed to fighting against the raw aggression of the Tyranids, were unprepared for the Swarmlord's cunning. By the time the defenders realized they were being outmaneuvered, the battle was already decided. The Swarmlord's forces overwhelmed the defenders, and the world was consumed by the Tyranid swarm. Following this victory, the Swarmlord's reputation began to grow, and he was increasingly trusted with leading the most difficult campaigns. As the Tyranids continued to devour more and more worlds, the Swarmlord's tactical acumen allowed him to push the swarm to new heights. His approach to warfare focused on precision, adaptability, and efficiency. While other Tyranid leaders relied on brute force and overwhelming numbers, the Swarmlord's command of strategy allowed him to achieve victories even against the most formidable enemies. In one of his most infamous campaigns, the Swarmlord led a Tyranid hive fleet against the Eldar Craftworlds, a race known for their advanced technology and exceptional tactical skills. The Eldar had long been a thorn in the side of the Tyranids, with their ability to outmaneuver and outthink their enemies. However, the Swarmlord proved to be a formidable opponent. Rather than engaging the Eldar directly in traditional battle, he employed a strategy of infiltration and sabotage, sending small Tyranid forces to strike at the heart of Eldar territory. The Swarmlord's forces disrupted the Eldar's defensive network, creating chaos and confusion. With their defenses crippled, the Tyranid swarm was able to overwhelm the Eldar Craftworlds in a series of devastating strikes. The Eldar, despite their considerable technological advantage, found themselves at the mercy of the Swarmlord's deadly tactics. Over the course of his existence, the Swarmlord continued to evolve and adapt, learning from each engagement and growing more formidable with each battle. His ability to analyze and exploit weaknesses in his enemies was key to his success. As the Swarmlord's campaigns progressed, he became increasingly feared not only by the Imperium, but also by other Xenos races. His reputation as the deadliest of all Tyranids spread across the galaxy, and he became a symbol of the Tyranids' relentless drive to consume and destroy. In one of the more dramatic episodes of his campaign, the Swarmlord faced off against a combined force of Imperial Space Marines and the Astra Militarum. The defenders, aware of the Tyranid threat, had fortified their positions and prepared for a long siege. However, the Swarmlord had no intention of allowing the battle to drag on. Using his superior intelligence and tactical understanding, he devised a plan to break the siege in a matter of days. By exploiting gaps in the Imperial defensive lines and using his bioengineered creatures to create distractions, the Swarmlord was able to cause panic and disarray among the defenders. In the end, the siege was broken, and the planet fell to the Tyranid swarm in a matter of days, a testament to the Swarmlord's ability to bring the most sophisticated defenses crashing down. As the Tyranid swarm continued to spread across the galaxy, the Swarmlord's role became increasingly vital. His leadership ensured that the swarm was not just a mindless, destructive force, but a well-organized and highly effective army capable of achieving its goals with terrifying efficiency. The Swarmlord's reputation as the deadliest of all Tyranids was solidified during the Hive Fleet's assault on the Segmentum Solar, one of the most critical regions of the Imperium. The battle was fierce, but the Swarmlord's forces, guided by his genius, managed to break through the Imperial defenses, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. In the final stages of his early campaigns, the Swarmlord was assigned to lead a strike against a particularly strategic Imperial world, one that held significant resources necessary for the Tyranid swarm's continued expansion. The world, though heavily fortified and well-defended, was seen as a critical objective. The Swarmlord's strategy was ruthless yet calculated. He ordered the swarm to lay siege to the planet, cutting off all supply lines and strangling the planet's ability to resist. The Imperial forces attempted to mount a counteroffensive, but the Swarmlord's perfect coordination and overwhelming force proved too much. The planet fell, its resources consumed, and its people devoured, just another casualty in the Tyranid race's quest for biomass. As the Swarmlord's campaigns progressed, his reputation only grew, and his actions began to shape the course of the Tyranid invasion. The combination of his biological prowess, his ability to adapt, and his exceptional tactical mind made him an essential figure in the Tyranid swarm. Each battle, each victory, further cemented his place as one of the most feared beings in the galaxy. His continued rise through the ranks of the Tyranid leadership signified a new era for the swarm, one marked by the perfect fusion of biological evolution and strategic brilliance. By the time the Swarmlord reached the height of his power, he had become synonymous with the Tyranid invasion itself. His influence over the swarm was undeniable, and his role in the destruction of countless worlds was pivotal in the Tyranids' relentless march across the galaxy. As the Tyranid forces continued to evolve, the Swarmlord remained at the forefront of their efforts, shaping the future of the swarm and ensuring its continued dominance in the galaxy's darkest corners. The pivotal moment in the Swarmlord's existence came when the Tyranid hive mind made the decision to elevate him as the supreme leader of the swarm's most critical and high-stakes campaigns. This shift represented not only a change in leadership, but also a decisive evolution in the Tyranids' approach to conquest. The choice to place the Swarmlord at the helm was a recognition of his unparalleled abilities, and it marked a significant departure from the strategies previously employed by the Tyranid hierarchy. The moment that defined the Swarmlord's exceptional abilities was his ability to synthesize the biological might of the Tyranids with an unmatched strategic intelligence. Unlike his predecessors, who were potent and effective leaders in their own right, the Swarmlord combined superior tactical acumen with his biological power, making him a figure who was both the mind and the muscle of the Tyranid swarm. The hive mind, ever seeking to optimize the swarm's efficiency, recognized that the Swarmlord's unique combination of attributes was the key to breaking through the most resilient and intelligent defenses the galaxy had to offer. His designation as the Supreme Commander marked the beginning of an era where the Tyranid race would evolve not just in strength but in intellect. One of the defining aspects of the Swarmlord's strength lies in his ability to learn, adapt, and evolve in real time during battle. This decision to elevate him as a leader was a direct result of his ability to not only execute predetermined tactics, but also to rapidly devise new strategies that could overcome unexpected challenges. He was no longer just a part of the hive mind's great collective will. He became the embodiment of its strategic genius. The Swarmlord's intellect set him apart from the rest of the swarm, allowing him to make decisions on the fly and adjust his plans mid-battle, something no other Tyranid leader had been able to do to such an extent. The change in leadership was directly linked to the Swarmlord's ability to turn every battle into an exercise in tactical mastery. His decision-making process went beyond the simple application of force. He understood that sheer numbers alone would not guarantee success. Instead, he focused on the art of deception, diversion, and psychological warfare. Unlike other Tyranid leaders who used brute strength and overwhelming waves of bioforms, the Swarmlord employed the principles of surprise, misdirection, and timing to take down more powerful enemies. His moves were calculated, his forces expertly coordinated, and his adaptability in battle allowed him to outthink even the most brilliant military minds of the Imperium, the Eldar, and other Xenos races. One particular instance that solidified the Swarmlord's reputation as the deadliest of all Tyranids occurred during the Battle of the Hive world Tyranids. The Imperium had believed it had devised a foolproof defense strategy, constructing massive fortifications and deploying elite units to safeguard the planet from Tyranid invasion. The Swarmlord, however, saw the strength of these defenses not as a challenge, but as an opportunity. He recognized that the battle would be won or lost, not based on direct confrontation, but through the ability to erode the defenders' resolve and destroy their coordination. Instead of committing his entire fleet to a frontal assault, the Swarmlord orchestrated a series of feints, misleading the defenders about the true location of the Tyranid main force. At the same time, he launched smaller, highly specialized units to systematically sabotage the Imperial command structure. With each passing day, the Imperial forces grew more fragmented, their leaders scattered, and their communication networks severed. The battle was no longer a matter of overwhelming numbers. It was about breaking the enemy's morale and disorienting their strategy. By the time the Imperium realized they had been outmaneuvered, the Swarmlord's main force had already struck at the heart of their defenses, cutting off their retreat and leaving them vulnerable to annihilation. What made this victory so significant was the way in which the Swarmlord's tactics redefined the approach to Tyranid warfare. It wasn't simply a matter of biological superiority or the unrelenting hunger of the swarm. It was about using the full spectrum of warfare. The Swarmlord's mind worked on a different level, understanding not only the strengths of his forces, but also the weaknesses of his enemies. This moment became the cornerstone of his leadership, proving that the Tyranids were not only predators of the galaxy, but were now led by a creature who could anticipate and counter the tactics of even the most seasoned generals. The decision to elevate the Swarmlord was also deeply tied to the hive mind's recognition that the Tyranid swarm needed more than just a commander. It needed a leader capable of bringing the swarm to new heights of strategic efficiency. As the Tyranid race continued to evolve, so too did the need for leadership that could evolve alongside it. The Swarmlord, with his ability to outthink, outmaneuver, and adapt, became the perfect figure to lead the Tyranids through the increasingly complex challenges of galactic warfare. The Swarmlord's power, however, was not solely a product of his intellect. His strength and resilience were integral to his role. While other Tyranid leaders had relied on overwhelming numbers and sheer physicality, the Swarmlord was a singular force, a living embodiment of the Tyranid race's evolutionary potential. His body, a grotesque fusion of muscle, armor, and weaponry, was designed for both leadership and battle. His sheer physical power enabled him to dominate on the front lines, while his intellect allowed him to guide the swarm with deadly precision. It was this combination that made him an unparalleled force within the Tyranid hierarchy and solidified his place as the Swarmlord, the deadliest of all Tyranids. In terms of his biological abilities, the Swarmlord was equipped with an array of adaptive traits that made him an even more formidable presence on the battlefield. He was not only capable of directly influencing the hive mind's strategic decisions, but his biostructure allowed him to integrate seamlessly with the Tyranid swarm, amplifying its effectiveness. His physical form was a culmination of Tyranid evolution, a being that could adapt to any battlefield condition, regenerate from wounds, and continually improve upon his strategies. Unlike other leaders who may falter in unfamiliar environments, the Swarmlord thrived, adjusting to each situation with terrifying precision. The key turning point in his rise to power came when the hive mind recognized that the Tyranids' growing complexity required a leader capable of evolving alongside them. The Swarmlord's unique combination of intelligence and strength was the answer. His ability to think beyond the conventional tactics used by other Tyranid commanders and use his intellect to control the flow of battle marked a significant shift in the Tyranids' approach to conquest. The decision to place him at the forefront of their war effort marked the beginning of a new era, one in which the Tyranid race would no longer be defined merely by their voracious hunger, but by the strategic genius of their leaders. The emergence of the Swarmlord as a central figure in the Tyranid invasion profoundly altered the course of galactic events. His leadership marked a pivotal shift, not only in Tyranid tactics, but also in how the galaxy would respond to the Tyranid threat. The implications of his actions resonated far beyond the immediate battles he led. Entire systems once thought to be beyond the reach of the Tyranids fell under his command, and his influence catalyzed a wave of fear and strategic rethinking among the galaxy's defenders. First and foremost, the Swarmlord's rise to prominence demonstrated a terrifying new phase in Tyranid evolution. No longer were the Tyranids simply a swarm of indiscriminate destroyers. Under the Swarmlord's guidance, they became a highly adaptable and intelligently led force capable of defeating even the most formidable adversaries. His leadership transformed the Tyranids from a galaxy-spanning plague of destruction into a sophisticated strategic threat that could strike with pinpoint precision. The Swarmlord's ability to integrate both biological might and tactical genius made him a figure who could challenge even the most entrenched defenders, forcing entire civilizations to rethink their defensive strategies. The immediate impact of the Swarmlord's campaigns was felt across countless star systems. His rise signaled a shift in the balance of power in the galaxy. The Swarm, once considered a wild, instinct-driven force of destruction, now became a highly organized and coordinated army under the Swarmlord's leadership. His ability to break through Imperial, Eldar, and other defenses reshaped the tactical paradigms of warfare throughout the galaxy. Military strategists across all factions began to acknowledge the Tyranids as more than just a threat of raw numbers and destruction. They now recognized them as a sophisticated and formidable military force, led by a mind that could outthink and outmaneuver even the most prepared armies. One of the most immediate effects of the Swarmlord's rise was his direct impact on the Imperium. For centuries, the Imperium had weathered many threats, from the Orcs to the Eldar, from the Chaos Forces to the Necrons. However, the Tyranid invasion had always been a matter of overwhelming force and survival rather than strategy. The arrival of the Swarmlord changed this dynamic. The Tyranids, under his command, became a force capable of coordinating complex attacks, using subterfuge, ambushes, and surprise tactics to bypass Imperial strongholds. Entire Imperial fleets were destroyed, not just through sheer numbers, but by surgical strikes that crippled command structures and supply lines. The greatest blow to the Imperium came when the Swarmlord led a Tyranid hive fleet in the siege of Calth. The planet, a strategic stronghold within the Segmentum Solar, was believed to be secure, its defenses well fortified, and its military presence overwhelming. But the Swarmlord's strategy turned the tables. Using his intelligence to outthink the Imperial defenses, he ordered a multi-pronged assault that split the Imperial forces, isolating key targets and rendering the planetary defense system obsolete. What followed was a complete annihilation of the world's defenses, and the fall of Calth sent shockwaves through the Imperium. This event was not just another victory. It was a symbolic moment that demonstrated the Tyranids' newfound strategic capability, and the Imperium was forced to dedicate unprecedented resources to counter the new threat. Beyond the Imperium, the Swarmlord's influence was also felt among other factions. The Eldar, long considered the galaxy's most advanced and strategic race, were thrown into disarray by the Tyranids' new approach. The Swarmlord, understanding the Eldar's reliance on their psychic abilities and strategic foresight, waged war on multiple fronts, preventing the Eldar from organizing a unified defense. He disrupted their communications and rendered their future vision unreliable, forcing them into a defensive position they had not known in millennia. The Eldar's once thought impregnable craftworlds were no longer safe havens, and the Tyranids' ability to infiltrate their territories created a new era of uncertainty for the ancient race. Other Xenos factions also found themselves grappling with the growing power of the Tyranid swarm. The Orcs, who had long relied on sheer chaos and overwhelming numbers, found themselves confronted by a more disciplined and organized enemy. Though the Orcs thrived on unpredictable warfare, the Swarmlord's calculated strikes and adaptability proved difficult to counter. Even the Tau, with their superior technology and tactical intelligence, were forced to revise their strategies. The Swarmlord's ability to evolve mid-battle, to adapt to the changing conditions of the field, meant that the Tau's reliance on coordinated strikes and technological superiority was no longer a guaranteed advantage. The Tyranids had become a multifaceted threat that challenged the very way these factions conducted warfare. The rise of the Swarmlord also had profound effects on the Tyranid race itself. His leadership marked the zenith of the Tyranids' biological and tactical evolution. Under his guidance, the Tyranid swarm underwent a period of rapid refinement. His influence extended not only to the battlefield, but also to the very creatures that made up the swarm. The Swarmlord's ability to adapt and evolve, to make real-time decisions based on the specifics of each engagement, led to the development of new bioforms and strategies that further enhanced the Tyranid forces. The hive fleet grew more efficient, more coordinated, and more deadly. The Swarmlord's rise heralded a new age for the Tyranid race, one in which biological evolution and strategic intelligence were fused to create a nearly unstoppable force. On a broader scale, the galaxy as a whole began to feel the weight of the Swarmlord's influence. The once unchallenged borders of the Imperium were no longer safe, and entire sectors that had been untouched by previous Tyranid incursions now faced the full force of the Hive fleet. The galaxy's defenders were forced to unite in ways they had never considered before. The threat posed by the Swarmlord and his Tyranid forces necessitated cooperation among the Imperium, Eldar, and even some of the more reluctant Xenos factions. A new kind of alliance, born out of necessity rather than ideology, began to form in an attempt to stem the growing Tyranid tide. The Swarmlord's campaigns also shifted the broader galactic balance of power. His rise to prominence not only made the Tyranid swarm a dominant force in the galaxy, but also forced every major faction to reconsider its place within the greater scheme of the universe. The once secure dominance of the Imperium was now under constant threat, and other races began to realize that their fates were intricately tied to the success or failure of their efforts against the Tyranid menace. The Swarmlord, as the mastermind behind this upheaval, forever altered the trajectory of galactic history. In conclusion, the Swarmlord's direct influence on the galaxy is immeasurable. His rise marked the beginning of a new era for the Tyranids, one in which they were no longer just a plague of hunger and destruction, but a highly organized and strategic force capable of reshaping the galaxy. The consequences of his leadership are still being felt across the Imperium, Xenos empires, and all the civilizations that call the galaxy home. The Swarmlord's campaigns disrupted the established order, and the galaxy is now a more dangerous, unpredictable place as a result. His legacy, whether one of destruction or survival, has left an indelible mark on the galaxy's future. One of the most unique and discussed aspects of the Swarmlord, especially within the Warhammer 40k fan community, is his role as the embodiment of the Tyranid hive mind's evolution. He is not just a leader or a weapon of destruction, but a living example of the Tyranids' ability to adapt, evolve, and refine their biology to the greatest possible advantage. This makes him a particularly fascinating character, as he embodies not only the destructive nature of the swarm, but also its intelligence and tactical depth. A key feature of the Swarmlord's uniqueness is his ability to reflect the Tyranid concept of constant biological evolution. Unlike other Tyranid leaders, who might have been created through traditional breeding methods, the Swarmlord is often speculated to have been specifically engineered by the hive mind itself, a hyper-evolutionary process designed to create a being of unparalleled intellect and combat prowess. Some fans believe that the Swarmlord may even be a unique fusion of multiple Tyranid organisms, combining the best traits of different bioforms to create a singular creature capable of both strategic genius and overwhelming power. This process of constant adaptation is at the heart of his role as the deadliest of all Tyranids. He is not just the sum of his parts, but an ongoing experiment in evolutionary perfection. This aspect of Swarmlord's existence ties into one of the most enduring fan discussions: the degree to which the Swarmlord's abilities represent the Tyranid's apex. Fans often debate whether the Swarmlord is the culmination of Tyranid development, or whether he is merely one step in a long line of potential evolutionary advances. His ability to adapt his tactics in real time, countering and learning from his enemies, has made him a subject of much discussion in Warhammer circles. Some fans speculate that he may continue to evolve as the Tyranids encounter new forms of resistance in the galaxy, constantly becoming a more dangerous threat with each battle. This process of real-time evolution is one of the most intriguing aspects of his character. He isn't just a static figure, but a dynamic one, growing and improving as the needs of the swarm evolve. Another unique aspect of the Swarmlord that fans often debate is his psychic connection with the hive mind. While the Tyranid's psychic presence is well known, with creatures like zoanthropes wielding significant powers, the Swarmlord is often seen as having a deeper, more personal connection with the hive mind. It is widely believed that the Swarmlord is able to think independently from the hive mind, allowing him to make strategic decisions that the broader collective intelligence might not immediately consider. This aspect of his character has led to many fan theories suggesting that the Swarmlord might have a unique level of autonomy compared to other Tyranid leaders. Some fans believe that this autonomy could lead to the Swarmlord forming his own interpretations of the hive mind's orders, acting in ways that are sometimes more complex or unconventional than what the hive mind originally intended. The Swarmlord's tactical ingenuity also sets him apart from many other characters in Warhammer 40k. Unlike other leaders of powerful factions who might rely primarily on brute strength or overwhelming numbers, the Swarmlord is often seen as a tactician of unparalleled skill. Fans frequently discuss his ability to deceive, outmaneuver, and outthink his enemies, particularly in the way he uses the Tyranid swarm. His ability to execute complex plans, such as feints, ambushes, and misdirection, has been the subject of much admiration. This is particularly remarkable considering the Tyranid forces are often considered to be somewhat mindless, driven by the collective will of the hive mind. The Swarmlord, however, is a leader who not only directs the swarm, but also manipulates it with a finesse that few, if any, of his Tyranid counterparts can match. His distinctive nature also leads to much speculation about the Swarmlord's place in Tyranid society. While the Tyranid hive mind is often thought of as a singular, monolithic intelligence, the Swarmlord is sometimes viewed as a potential anomaly or an independent agent within that system. Some fan theories suggest that the Swarmlord could be a manifestation of the hive mind's need for leadership, or that he might even represent a growing divergence within Tyranid society. This notion of the Swarmlord as a being that exists slightly apart from the typical Tyranid hierarchy, yet still firmly within it, sparks a great deal of intrigue among fans. Some believe he could evolve into something entirely different as the Tyranids face more complex foes, perhaps even gaining a level of autonomy that could one day see him challenge the hive mind itself. Furthermore, the Swarmlord's combat abilities are often a major point of fascination. Unlike many Tyranid creatures whose strength lies in sheer numbers or brute force, the Swarmlord is seen as an apex predator that can wield devastating power in one-on-one combat while simultaneously commanding entire swarms. His physical form is a terrifying example of Tyranid bioengineering, a creature that combines speed, strength, and resilience. The fact that he is not simply a monster of instinct, but a being of deliberate, directed power adds a layer of complexity to his character. Fans often discuss his combat style, how he moves and fights, and how his biology is perfectly suited to both the battlefield and the leadership of the swarm. His role as a dual threat, both as a strategic mastermind and as a physical powerhouse, makes him a standout among Tyranid leaders. The Swarmlord's connection to the Tyranid fleet is also of interest to many fans. As the supreme commander of Tyranid hive fleets, his leadership style is often discussed in terms of how he coordinates the swarm. Some believe that the Swarmlord's unique capabilities are tied to his direct control over the fleet's bioships, creatures, and formations. His ability to adapt to the battlefield and give precise commands to each part of the swarm is another aspect that fans admire. The question of how the Swarmlord maintains such control over such a vast and diverse array of bioforms is a point of speculation. Could his psychic abilities be amplifying his leadership, or is there something more at play? perhaps an unseen link between him and the very genetic makeup of the Tyranid swarm itself. In addition to his leadership, another aspect often discussed by fans is the symbolism of the Swarmlord as the ultimate expression of Tyranid evolution. He represents a stage where the Tyranid race, after consuming and adapting across countless worlds, has reached the pinnacle of its evolutionary potential. This theme of relentless self-improvement is a key part of his identity and has led to many debates about what it means for the Tyranid race in the future. Fans often ponder whether the Swarmlord's existence signifies that the Tyranid race has reached its peak, or whether it hints at even greater evolutions yet to come. The question of whether the Swarmlord is a unique, once-in-a-lifetime being or a harbinger of a new wave of Tyranid leaders is a topic of much debate. All of these unique aspects, the Swarmlord's combination of intellect and strength, his mastery of tactics, his relationship with the hive mind, and his position in Tyranid evolution, make him a character of great depth and intrigue. The fan discussions surrounding his nature and his place in the Tyranid hierarchy show just how much potential the Swarmlord represents. He is not just a monster, but a symbol of the Tyranid's ever-evolving nature, and his legacy will continue to spark speculation and discussion for years to come. The Swarmlord's campaigns have not been fought in isolation. His rise to prominence has been marked by significant encounters with some of the galaxy's most formidable warriors, leaders, and tacticians. Among these, a few stand out due to their direct confrontation with the Swarmlord and the profound impact these battles had on the galaxy's broader war effort. These individuals, though vastly different in nature from the Tyranid, represent the fierce resistance the galaxy has offered to the Tyranid invasion. Their strength, skills, and motivations offer a stark contrast to the Swarmlord's relentless drive for consumption, and their battles with him have left lasting legacies. One of the most notable figures to have directly opposed the Swarmlord is none other than Lord Commander Dante of the Blood Angels. Dante, one of the most respected and experienced leaders in the Imperium, has faced the Tyranids multiple times throughout his career. Known for his unwavering determination and tactical brilliance, Dante is a figure of immense strength, both physically and as a commander. His personal strength is legendary, with his prowess on the battlefield ensuring that the Blood Angels stand as one of the Imperium's most elite Space Marine chapters. Dante's primary strength lies in his tactical foresight. His ability to predict the movements of his enemies, especially in the face of overwhelming odds, has made him a celebrated military leader. Against the Swarmlord and his Tyranid forces, Dante's adaptability in combat has been tested to its limits. His experience in fighting the Tyranids has allowed him to recognize the swarm's most dangerous patterns, and he has led many successful counterattacks. Dante's faith in the Emperor and his deep sense of duty to the Imperium have also served as the bedrock for his actions against the Tyranids, giving him a resilience that few other leaders possess. However, despite his immense skill and leadership, Dante is not without his weaknesses. His age, though remarkable for a Space Marine, has started to show, and the sheer number of Tyranid forces he must contend with has made even his best-laid plans vulnerable. While his individual combat abilities remain formidable, the overwhelming numbers of the Tyranid swarm are an enemy he cannot defeat through sheer force alone. Against a being like the Swarmlord, who can adapt and counteract the Imperium's best strategies, Dante faces a difficult challenge. His forces are often outmaneuvered, and the Tyranids' ability to evolve makes them a continually shifting threat. Another key figure who stands in opposition to the Swarmlord is Farseer Eldrad Ulthran of the Eldar. Known for his powerful psychic abilities and unparalleled foresight, Eldrad is one of the most powerful and influential figures within the Eldar race. His mastery of psychic powers allows him to foresee potential futures and influence the course of events in ways few others could. When faced with the Tyranid threat, Eldrad's role has been one of strategic counsel and direct intervention. He recognizes the threat the Tyranids pose not only to the galaxy, but to the very future of the Eldar race. and he has done everything in his power to fight the encroaching swarm. Eldrad's psychic prowess is his greatest strength, allowing him to alter the very fabric of reality to strike at the heart of his enemies. Against the Swarmlord, Eldrad has used his abilities to foresee the movements of the Tyranid swarm and predict the Swarmlord's strategies. However, the Swarmlord's intelligence and tactical acumen make him a difficult opponent for even Eldrad. While the Farseer's psychic powers give him an edge in battle, the Swarmlord's adaptability often prevents Eldrad from maintaining a consistent advantage. Additionally, Eldrad's reliance on his psychic abilities can sometimes backfire, as the Tyranids are known to develop countermeasures against psychic powers, especially when they are led by a creature as cunning as the Swarmlord. Despite the challenges, Eldrad's influence is undeniable. His foresight allows him to alter the course of a battle before it begins, and his understanding of the Tyranids' weaknesses has been key to several Eldar victories. However, in his battles with the Swarmlord, Eldrad has learned that no strategy is foolproof. The Tyranid leader's capacity to evolve and adapt means that no matter how much the Eldar foresee, they are often fighting a moving target. This dynamic between Eldrad's psychic mastery and the Swarmlord's tactical genius is a constant source of tension and a key point of fascination for fans of the Warhammer 40k universe. The Swarmlord has also faced off against the enigmatic figure of Inquisitor Greyfax, a prominent member of the Ordo Hereticus. Greyfax is a formidable presence within the Imperium, known for her unflinching loyalty to the Emperor and her merciless tactics when dealing with those she deems enemies of humanity. As an Inquisitor, her role has been to root out heresy, alien influence, and any threat to the stability of the Imperium. Her missions often involve direct confrontation with the most dangerous enemies of the Imperium, and her experience with the Tyranids has made her a key figure in the galaxy's struggle against the Swarm. Greyfax's greatest strength lies in her unyielding will and her refusal to accept failure. Her faith in the Emperor is absolute, and this drive fuels her to take on seemingly insurmountable odds, even against the Tyranids. Her experience and resolve make her a dangerous foe for any who threaten the Imperium, and her tactical acumen is on par with some of the Imperium's finest generals. However, like Dante, Greyfax is often faced with the overwhelming numbers of the Tyranid swarm, and her ability to defeat such a formidable enemy with limited resources is frequently put to the test. Her personal strength and resourcefulness are enough to allow her to survive in these deadly confrontations, but the Tyranid threat, especially under the Swarmlord's leadership, represents an ever-present challenge she must continuously adapt to. The most defining aspect of Greyfax's role in the battle against the Tyranids is her unrelenting pursuit of extermination. She will stop at nothing to destroy the Tyranid threat, viewing it as a dire matter of survival for the Imperium. In her clashes with the Swarmlord, Greyfax embodies the Imperium's refusal to bow before even the most insurmountable odds. Despite this, her struggles with the Swarmlord have shown that even the greatest leaders can be pushed to their limits in the face of a constantly evolving and adaptive enemy. Her encounters with the Swarmlord serve as a sobering reminder of the threat the Tyranids pose to the galaxy. Finally, we must consider the impact of the battles between the Swarmlord and the forces of the Imperium and Eldar on the broader scope of the galaxy. Each confrontation between the Swarmlord and his most formidable opponents has shaped the strategies and tactics of these races. These battles have left an indelible mark on the galaxy, forcing leaders like Dante, Eldrad, and Greyfax to rethink their approaches and adjust their strategies in response to the unparalleled threat the Swarmlord represents. In each case, the Swarmlord stands as a monumental figure whose very presence demands respect. His intelligence, his tactical brilliance, and his overwhelming strength make him a force that even the galaxy's most powerful leaders cannot ignore. These battles, while shaping the fate of individual worlds, also serve to remind the galaxy of the ever-present and ever-evolving nature of the Tyranid threat. the Swarmlord's role in the conflict between the Tyranids and the galaxy's defenders continues to be a subject of fascination, as his battles with these legendary figures have proven to be some of the most critical and defining moments in the galaxy's ongoing war. The story of the Swarmlord is one of immense power, relentless evolution, and the seeming inevitability of the Tyranids' galactic conquest. However, despite his prominence and undeniable strength, there remain numerous unanswered questions and intriguing theories surrounding his nature, his origin, and his ultimate purpose. These gaps in the lore not only fuel fan speculation, but also add layers of mystery to a character who is already one of the most enigmatic and deadly in the Warhammer 40k universe. One of the most debated and compelling questions is the nature of the Swarmlord's origins. While it is generally accepted that he is a specially engineered tyranid, created by the hive mind to be a superior leader and tactician, the exact details of his creation remain shrouded in mystery. Some believe that the Swarmlord was birthed through a process of intense bioengineering, a deliberate attempt by the hive mind to refine and perfect the Tyranid race. Others, however, suggest that the Swarmlord might not be a singular creation at all, but rather a culmination of multiple Tyranid strains and organisms fused together. This theory posits that the Swarmlord's superior intellect and adaptability are not inherent, but instead the result of a merging of different bioforms, each contributing their strengths to the Swarmlord's overall being. The idea that the Swarmlord is the product of an ongoing process of refinement rather than a singular creation opens up many interesting possibilities. If this theory holds true, it suggests that the Swarmlord may not be unique in his power. The Tyranids, with their capacity for constant evolution and genetic experimentation, might continue to create more beings like the Swarmlord, each potentially surpassing him in intelligence or power. This would mean that the Swarmlord is not the pinnacle of Tyranid leadership, but rather an early experiment in what could become a new breed of Tyranid leaders. Such a development would dramatically shift the balance of power in the galaxy, especially if these new Tyranid leaders were even more cunning and capable than the Swarmlord. Another unresolved question regarding the Swarmlord concerns his relationship with the hive mind. While it is clear that the Swarmlord is deeply connected to the hive mind, the extent of his autonomy is still a matter of debate. The Tyranid hive mind is often described as a vast collective intelligence, where each creature is linked to the greater whole, its actions dictated by the will of the hive. However, the Swarmlord's intelligence and ability to make independent decisions suggest that he may possess a degree of autonomy that other Tyranid leaders lack. Some theorize that the Swarmlord's tactical genius comes not just from the hive mind's directives, but from his ability to think for himself and adapt to changing battlefield conditions in ways that the hive mind could not anticipate. This raises a significant question. Could the Swarmlord's increasing independence signal a shift in the relationship between the Tyranid race and the hive mind? Could the Swarmlord eventually grow so powerful and self-aware that he might challenge the hive mind itself? Such a scenario, while speculative, is an intriguing one. If the Swarmlord were to become truly autonomous, it could lead to a schism within the Tyranid race, with some factions remaining loyal to the hive mind and others following the Swarmlord in pursuit of a different vision. This would mark the beginning of a new chapter in Tyranid history, one in which their unified, all-consuming nature is challenged by a new form of leadership. Another theory that continues to spark debate among fans is the nature of the Swarmlord's ultimate goal. The Tyranids are driven by an insatiable hunger, consuming all biomass in their path, but this goal seems almost mechanical in nature. While the Swarmlord undoubtedly serves this larger purpose, could there be a more personal or deeper motive at play here? Some fans speculate that the Swarmlord might not simply be a tool of the hive mind, but might have his own, more complex motivations. Could he, for example, see the Tyranid race as the ultimate life form, destined to rule the galaxy by consuming all other life? In this case, the Swarmlord's unyielding march of destruction could be driven not by the will of the hive mind alone, but by a more personal vision of the future, a future in which the Swarmlord and his race are the sole rulers of the galaxy. This theory ties into another contentious issue, the idea that the Swarmlord might be the key to the Tyranid race's true purpose. While the Tyranids are often depicted as mindless devourers, their constant evolution and apparent strategic brilliance suggest that they might be on a path towards something greater. The question arises, is the Swarmlord's role to facilitate the consumption of all life, or is there a deeper, more long-term plan at work? Could the Swarmlord be laying the groundwork for the Tyranids to eventually surpass their need for biomass and evolve into something entirely different? Perhaps a race that consumes not just organic matter, but the very fabric of reality itself. This would place the Swarmlord at the center of a much grander cosmic vision, one that transcends mere survival and consumption and instead focuses on a deeper, more esoteric purpose. The idea of the Swarmlord as a figure who could eventually lead the Tyranids to an entirely new form of existence has also led to discussions about his potential interaction with other forces in the galaxy. Specifically, could the Swarmlord play a role in the Tyranids' relationship with the forces of chaos? Chaos, like the Tyranids, is a force of change and destruction, albeit one rooted in the immaterium rather than the material realm. Some fans have speculated that, given the Tyranids' constant drive for evolution, the Swarmlord might eventually come into conflict or even form an alliance with Chaos, especially if the two forces share common goals. The idea of the Swarmlord negotiating with the Dark Gods or becoming a harbinger of Chaos's destructive influence is a tantalizing possibility, though it remains purely speculative. Equally intriguing is the question of the Swarmlord's legacy. If the Tyranid race were to ever encounter resistance strong enough to drive them back, what would become of the Swarmlord? Would he, like other Tyranid leaders, adapt and evolve to overcome new threats, or would he ultimately be surpassed by the next phase of Tyranid evolution? The possibility that the Swarmlord's reign could be temporary, a stepping stone to something greater, is a common topic of debate. Some fans believe that the Swarmlord's dominance is merely a precursor to a greater leader, one who could rise from the swarm's evolutionary process. Others argue that the Swarmlord is the ultimate expression of Tyranid potential, a being who will never be surpassed. These unresolved questions and theories regarding the Swarmlord's origin, his relationship with the hive mind, his true purpose, and his legacy are what make him such a compelling and enduring figure in the Warhammer 40k universe. His role in the ongoing Tyranid invasion raises more questions than answers, and this uncertainty only deepens the sense of mystery surrounding him. As the Tyranid swarm continues to grow, the Swarmlord's role in shaping the future of the galaxy remains one of the most tantalizing unknowns in the lore. Each new theory about him adds a layer of complexity to an already rich and enigmatic character, ensuring that the Swarmlord remains a figure of endless speculation and intrigue for years to come. The long-term consequences of the Swarmlord's rise to power and his continued ascent within the Tyranid hierarchy are both terrifying and complex. If he were to gain even greater strength and influence, the impact on the galaxy could be devastating, as his cunning, strategic mind and biological might would combine to push the Tyranid race toward an unstoppable force capable of reshaping the very fabric of the universe. The Swarmlord represents more than just a terrifying military leader. He embodies the evolution of the Tyranid swarm, an ever-adapting species capable of conquering any obstacle in its path. In the short term, if the Swarmlord were to gain further strength, his impact on the battlefield would be immeasurable. The Tyranid forces under his command would become an even more formidable, efficient, and coordinated force, able to overwhelm entire systems with surgical precision. His capacity for adaptation and the ability to learn from each engagement would allow him to exploit every weakness in his enemies, rendering traditional strategies ineffective. The Tyranids, once thought to be a mindless swarm of destruction, would evolve into a truly sophisticated and intelligent force capable of reshaping the galaxy's power structures. One of the most significant changes in the long term would be the potential for the Swarmlord to extend his influence beyond the Tyranid race itself. As he grows in strength, it is conceivable that he could begin to exert control over other Tyranid leaders, effectively centralizing command under his tactical genius. The Tyranid hive mind, while powerful, is often described as a collective intelligence that relies on the coordination of its many bioforms. However, the Swarmlord, with his ability to think independently and strategically, could potentially evolve into a leader capable of supplanting the hive mind's influence, at least in a tactical sense. The Swarmlord could become the focal point for all Tyranid strategy, consolidating the Swarm's various fleets and forces under his direct command, creating an unprecedented level of cohesion and power. This centralization of command would make the Tyranid invasion even more terrifying, as the Swarm would act as one unified entity, no longer subject to the limitations of decentralized leadership. The evolution of the Swarmlord's power could also lead to new biological advancements within the Tyranid race. As the Swarmlord continues to evolve, he could inspire the development of even more advanced Tyranid bioforms, pushing the boundaries of Tyranid bioengineering. These new bioforms could surpass the existing Tyranid creatures in terms of strength, intelligence, and adaptability, making the swarm even more versatile and deadly. The Tyranid swarm could begin to use even more complex tactics, combining the strengths of its existing bioforms with entirely new organisms created specifically for warfare. The Swarmlord's continued dominance could usher in an era of constant, unrelenting evolution as the Tyranids push forward with their insatiable hunger for biomass and their drive to adapt to every challenge. In the longer-term perspective, the greatest shift could come if the Swarmlord were to achieve something even more profound, the eventual realization of the Tyranid's ultimate purpose. As the Swarmlord evolves and refines the Tyranid forces, there is a possibility that the swarm's goals could transcend mere consumption of biomass. The theory that the Tyranids are not just seeking to feed, but are preparing for something far more grandiose has long circulated in the Warhammer 40k community. If the Swarmlord's influence continues to grow, it's conceivable that the Tyranids could shift from being a species of destructive consumption to one of active reshaping of the galaxy. The Swarmlord could orchestrate the creation of a new tyrannical order, not merely based on devouring life, but on absorbing the very essence of other species, making them part of the Tyranid hive mind. This could lead to a galaxy where all life is absorbed, transformed, and remade into something that serves the Tyranid race. In such a scenario, the Swarmlord could lead the Tyranids not only to destroy, but to redefine what life is, reshaping the galaxy into a new, terrifying form that reflects his vision of evolution and dominance. This shift in purpose would have catastrophic consequences for all other factions in the galaxy. The Imperium, the Eldar, and other Xenos races would no longer be facing an alien race bent on mindless destruction. They would be up against a force that sought not just to consume, but to replace all life in the galaxy with the Tyranid ideal. The concept of total annihilation would no longer be the Tyranid's goal. Rather, they would aim to absorb all forms of life into a singular, hive-minded existence. This would be the true end of the galaxy as it is known. For humanity, the Eldar, and every other species in the galaxy, this would represent the ultimate extinction, not through death, but through assimilation into the Tyranid collective. From a more immediate perspective, the Swarmlord's increased power would almost certainly spell disaster for the Imperium of Man. The Imperium is already on the back foot in many regions of the galaxy, struggling to defend against the relentless advance of the Tyranid fleets. Should the Swarmlord continue to grow in strength, the Imperium's already overextended forces would be completely overwhelmed. His tactical genius, combined with the Tyranids' sheer numbers, would make traditional defense strategies obsolete. The Imperium's defensive lines, which already buckle under the weight of multiple threats, would collapse under the strain of a singular, unified Tyranid assault directed by the Swarmlord. entire sectors of the Imperium could fall, with billions of citizens lost to the Tyranid swarm. The very existence of humanity in the galaxy could be threatened, as the Swarmlord's strategies would target key Imperial worlds, cutting off their vital resources and leaving them vulnerable to annihilation. In contrast, there is a chance that the rise of the Swarmlord could spur other factions in the galaxy to unite against the Tyranid menace in a way that has never been seen before. The Swarmlord's unrelenting advance, if unchecked, could become the galvanizing force that unites the fragmented galaxy's various factions. The Imperium, the Eldar, the Tau, and even other Xenos factions might find themselves forced to collaborate in order to stop the Swarmlord's ever-growing power. The threat posed by the Swarmlord could shift alliances and create temporary coalitions of convenience, as factions that have traditionally been hostile to one another realize that their survival depends on defeating the Tyranids. In this sense, the Swarmlord's rise could inadvertently create the conditions for a galaxy-wide alliance, though it would come at the cost of great bloodshed and sacrifices on all sides. However, while such alliances could provide a temporary solution, it's unlikely that they would be able to halt the Tyranid advance for long. The Tyranid's inherent adaptability, especially under the leadership of someone as tactically gifted as the Swarmlord, would mean that the swarm would always find a way to overcome even the most coordinated resistance. Eventually, the Tyranid swarm would grow stronger, evolve further, and adapt to any new tactics that could be devised to halt its advance. The long-term perspective is grim. If the Swarmlord continues to rise in power, it's likely that no faction in the galaxy, alone or in alliance, could prevent the Tyranids from eventually overwhelming them. In conclusion, the Swarmlord's rise to power is both a blessing and a curse for the galaxy. In the immediate future, his increased strength would make the Tyranid swarm an even greater existential threat to all life in the galaxy. In the longer term, his growing influence could bring about the end of the galaxy as we know it, either through total destruction or through the creation of a new, Tyranid-dominated order. While his rise might temporarily unite other factions, the inevitable outcome of his continued evolution and tactical mastery is the complete reshaping of the galaxy in the image of the Tyranid hive mind. Whether this would be a positive or negative development for the galaxy is a matter of perspective, but from the point of view of every living species outside of the Tyranids, the Swarmlord's growing power can only be seen as a harbinger of doom.